which is like the typical, well, because you can't disprove it, it must be true as a conspiracy theory. You know?
which is a good topic to talk about.
Is it on flat earthers?
Did you listen to, no, but close. It's a man who's just as crazy as the flat earthers. You ever heard of a guy named Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah. In fact,
I'm just kidding.
I had.
I like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Actually, okay, so I find him very annoying.
Yes.
But
yes.
He's
intelligent.
Is a very intelligent man, a really good educator. He does great things for science as far as educating people. But did you listen to his episode with Joe Rogan where they talked about aliens and UFOs and stuff?
I don't think so. I kept seeing I think I may have watched a clip of it or something.
So basically his take was all we have are these really fuzzy, blurry videos. Why is it we have all these cell phones and high resolution cameras and no real clear evidence? So basically his argument was the lack of evidence for the thing is evidence against the thing. And he gave a well-educated or eloquent opinion of why that can be valid to give evidence for something not existing based on the lack of evidence for it. And I was like, okay, sounds smart, sounds good and stuff. And then I listened to an episode with Tim Dillon where Joe Rogan talked to Tim Dillon, and they were talking about September 11th and the conspiracies around September 11th, specifically the Pentagon. They were like, the Pentagon is the most secure building on the face of the planet, right? They've got cameras ad nauseum all over. Like they have coverage of everything. So why is the only clip of the plane hitting the Pentagon this really blurry footage from across the street where you can't really tell what hits the Pentagon? You just see a blur and then an explosion. So like, where's all the footage from the Pentagon? They have cameras all over the building. And so basically that was his argument for why it wasn't a plane that hit the Pentagon. It was actually like some kind of cruise missile or something. Like his argument was basically there's a lack of evidence for the plane, so therefore it must not be a plane. And I was like, that's basically the same argument that what's his face Tyson gave for why UFOs and aliens aren't real. And I was like, so it kind of makes me think like being a skeptic for skepticism's sake is not the right approach. And I'm probably guilty of that a lot because I tend to be skeptical about everything, but I can't provide any counter arguments. I'm just like, I don't believe that because your evidence is weak. Like you need better evidence, but then I can't provide any counter evidence. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't like when people give this air of certainty that this thing doesn't exist or didn't happen because there's a lack of evidence for it. It's like, so basically I don't know. I ascribe to the idea that you should communicate the level of certainty with your opinions. Like, I'm not sure whether this did or didn't happen, but I don't see there being enough evidence to prove it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson goes, UFOs and aliens are silly, we're wasting our time, and says because we don't have very much evidence, it's like, well, then maybe we should get better evidence.
So I don't remember if it was Neil deGrasse Tyson that I watched, but I remember actually watching a clip, and that was cueing some things in my memory. So I think it may have been Neil deGrasse Tyson. But anyway, and I think what was said was something more along the lines of like, look, I'm a scientist. That is what I do professionally. Being a scientist, is all about what you can observe. And because I have not observed anything, I cannot say that I believe in them. Otherwise, I'm shitting on the last like few decades of my work, because the whole concept of science is what you can observe. And I remember learning this as a kid. Science, like there really aren't anything. There isn't anything that is a hard fact in science. It is
generally, that's
just stronger or weaker hypotheses. Is that how you say plural? But so
yes
basically, the fact that we accept that dinosaurs are extinct technically has never been proven scientifically.
yes.
But we accept the fact that dinosaurs are extinct because we haven't seen one in like thousands of years or whatever, or millions of years or whatever it is that you think is the case. But to really prove that dinosaurs are extinct, we would have to have simultaneous observation of every, square foot of the earth and to verify that, okay, at no point are we missing a dinosaur somewhere on the earth, which we've never done. And so that being said, I think his mindset was like, look, like the second I can observe something, I'll believe. But at this point, I haven't observed something. And so I'm more concerned about what I can observe.
Right.
Which I think is pretty fair. Like there's a certain amount to me that I'm like, oh my God, aliens are real. Holy shit. It's blatantly obvious. Like everywhere there's all these videos and things now. There's like facts, there's announcements from the Pentagon, declassified documents, this, that, and the other. And then I'm like, holy shit. But then I'm on the other side of that. It's like, okay, well, like, what difference does it make? Like we're not interacting with them, at least right now. So it makes no difference. Like the mere fact that knowing that they're out there does not mean that I can go interact with one. And then A or B being that it would be a dangerous interaction or a not dangerous interaction. Like, what do they want? Do they want to kill us and eat our brains or whatever? I don't know.
Probably, most likely.
But then like I even saw, like I didn't look into this, but like it was like one of those like headline suggested article things again, where it's like, people say, or scientists say that it's possible aliens could be among us. We just don't recognize them as aliens. And it was like a picture of like a weird species of plant or something.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's all kinds of like theories about some simulation theory and different things like that. There's some pretty crazy stuff that
we're living
technically,
in the Matrix.
Like people can provide, a certain level of evidence for by doing certain mathematics or different things, which is not proof, but it is evidence. So it's like, if you were to, okay, so let me clarify some of my points and go back to the Neil deGrasse Tyson thing. You talked about part of being a scientist is you have to make observations. If you don't have an observation, then how can you have a hypothesis or a theory or whatever? So we have these videos leaked by, or actually released by the Navy in different sources that they're saying, yes, this is, verified footage. We did record this. We don't know what it is.
Unidentified object.
Unidentified object.
We know that this is like, you can observe this as an alien.
I'm not making that claim. What I'm saying is, because Neil deGrasse Tyson's point was not that it's not. Well, actually, I can't speak for him because I'm not entirely sure what exactly his point was. But basically, if you have video footage of a phenomenon, right, you can make a hypothesis about that. You have an observation. So we see this video footage. It provides a certain level of evidence. It's blurry. We don't know what it is. We can't verify exactly what it is with our eyes. We see certain characteristics about the way it moves. And you can make a hypothesis about that, right? So he could look at the footage and say, my hypothesis is that is a drone. And then you could go test that hypothesis. If you have a hypothesis, you can test it. So then you would say, well, if this is in fact footage of a drone, then we would expect that we could go out there and look at the various drones out there and be able to reproduce certain elements of this video and the characteristics of the way it moves with other drones in existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go search for drones that do that. When you find no drone that does that, then that's pretty good indication that your theory or your hypothesis was probably not good. And then you can refine your hypothesis. So you then have to say, well, either there's drones out there that are, secret technology that we can't access that information, or it is not a good hypothesis. So let's refine our hypothesis and keep testing. He's not doing that. He's just saying, yeah, we don't know what it is.
But
and it's okay, well, what do you think it is? Like there's something to be said about someone putting themselves on a line by actually making testable hypothesis.
Yeah, but so I think so just because there's something out there to learn doesn't mean that he's obligated to go learn it.
Sure,
just
but
because we can't prove or can prove that
but
there are aliens.
Why not have a hypothesis? He's seen the video.
Well,
he's a well-educated man.
So let's say he has a hypothesis. Well,
that's
now,
more
if he's
useful
going
than
to,
just saying, no, we don't know what it is.
Well, other people are taking care of that. Like there are other people that are looking into it. Why does he need to as well? I mean, we can have the same kinds of conversation about, well, why isn't he doing stuff over there at the Amazon? Because we're figuring out there's a lot to learn about the Amazon, about our history.
I don't expect him to examine every single phenomenon out there that we can't explain. But the fact that he has observed it and he just wants to say,
he's observed a grainy video.
It can't be UFO or aliens because where are the high resolution photos? To me, that's just, it's not a useful opinion.
Did he make the claim that it can't be aliens, or did he just
say... No, he didn't say it can't be, but yeah. I'm just saying that's not a helpful opinion.
Well, okay, but again, I don't think he's obligated to go be helpful.
Maybe not, but I find him
other things.
I find him annoying because
I believe me, I find him annoying, but yeah, I'm not convinced that he needs to go investigate aliens just because.
No, I'm not saying he should investigate it, but I'm you're sitting down there with Joe Rogan. This is entertainment, man. Whether you know it is or not, it can be educational, it can be entertaining.
Well, that's the difference between him and Bill Nye.
Joe Rogan sits there with a very intelligent, educated scientist, and he asks, hey, what do you think of this video? Isn't that crazy? It's you could go, for example, he could sit there and say,
but he gave his thoughts. His thoughts are his own.
Just give me a second.
Okay. I mean,
he could sit there and say, yeah, Joe, that is pretty crazy. I can't explain that with any, phenomenon I know of. So who knows what it could be? But he wants to say, yeah, that's not aliens because.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
He said that's not aliens.
Yeah. Go review the footage. Go watch it.
I'm not going to do it right now, but I don't think he ever denied it being aliens.
I will come back.
Next week,
and give
your
words. Retraction or whatever if I'm wrong. But he basically said that. I'm you could sit there and say, yeah, I don't know what that is. That that behaves in a way that we're not used to, or I think that's a fabricated video, or I think that that the instruments, or it was a camera malfunction or something like that. You could make all kinds of really low risk hypothesis about what it is or isn't, but you don't have to say it's not a certain thing.
Maybe he's just paid off by the government to deny the possibility of aliens.
He's probably
by the Democrats
in the loop, and they're working with him.
He was in the January 6th siege.